Hey folks, this is the fighting nerd Ray Chalinsky and his co-host Jolly Roger coming to you from the Resistance Bunker. In the last video I mentioned that I was going to kind of take the restraints off myself and let this channel go into places other than knives and nerdy stuff. And I guess what I'm going to be doing now is going to be some nerdy stuff, and there's going to be some politics later on. So today what I really want to do is kind of let everybody know where I stand on the weird stuff that I'm going to get into, like UFOs, paranormal activity, Bigfoot, Loch Ness, all that other stuff, and the other stuff I want to get into, conspiracy theories. And I just want to let everybody know where my headspace is on this from the beginning. When it comes to the Illuminati and the Council on Foreign Relations and the global elite and all of that, I do believe that there's a problem with that. I do believe that there are a lot of people with money and influence that do have behind the scenes power, particularly in the Western democracies or republics. We're not a democracy, folks, we're a republic. But I do believe that now, you can call that a conspiracy? Yes. Do I think that there's like maybe 100 guys that secretly bend everything to their will, and make all the decisions in a smoke-filled room under a rose? No. What I believe is that you have the that 1% of the people that have the wealth and the influence, and they're all of a like mind of how the world should be. They have some slight differences, and there are factions within this group that kind of vie with each other, but their end goal is that the the inferior bred, uneducated, largely stupid masses like me and most of you out there, in their opinion, should sit down, shut up, and do as you're told. And they do want a global unified government under this elite class of rulers. Now, I think that they're an omnipotent group that control absolutely everything? No. But do I think that there are some people that you probably never heard of that have more money that you can possibly conceive of, that use that money to manipulate things toward this global system of governance? Yes, I do believe that. When it comes to UFOs and the paranormal stuff, I believe that those phenomena exist. However, I do not subscribe to any of the given theories that are out there now for such phenomena. For instance, when it comes to UFOs, there is no doubt that people are seeing stuff in the sky that defies easy explanation. But I don't grab on with religious conviction to the nuts and bolts crafts from Zeta Reticuli, or that, they're different aliens from a galactic federation of planets, or that every single one of them is just emerging technology being used by the government. I tend to look at the phenomenon as kind of a psychosocietal thing. Now, could they be from another planet? Yes. Could they be just really, really advanced aircraft that we built? Yes. My personal theory is that most of them are extra-dimensional / demonic. I used to be a nut and bolt UFO guy, but even though I'm not actually absolutely married to the extra-dimensional / demonic theory, to me, after being very interested in looking into this since I was a wee lad, I go for that. I go for that one. But I am not married to the theory. I am open to being proven wrong one day. I don't think I will, because I really don't think that in my lifetime or even in the next generation's lifetime we're going to get definitive answers to any of this, if we ever do. But I still find them fascinating. So that's where I'm at on that type of thing. Now, I got interested in the UFOs and the Bigfoot, especially the UFOs and stuff, when I was in grade school. One of the first books I ever remember reading cover to cover was a book about UFOs that I ordered on these little sheets for books that you would get in when I was in grade school. I think I was in third grade. You older people remember these book sheets. Your parents could order books for you. I ordered a book about UFOs. It's one of the first books I remember reading. So I've been interested in that for a very long time. The political stuff and the New World Order stuff, there's another buzzword or buzz phrase, came when I was in high school. So I'm going to be 50 on May 25th, so I've been looking into that for a long time too. But the thing is, up until a few years ago, there was the conspiracy theorists, and then there were the UFO nuts, and the Bigfoot believers and all that. But they were all in this one camp, and then the political stuff and about the secret society and stuff was over here. They were two completely different kinds of nuts. But that's changed recently, and that's what I really want to talk about today. Now, there is a merging of these two, where if you talk about one, people assume that you also believe in the other. And therefore, if you believe in one, and that maybe is not so out there, the believing in the other drags the belief of the first one. I'm not doing this right. Okay, I'm just going to go for it this way. I should edit these videos. I'm going to have to start editing videos, but not today. I'm just going to use the example that got my wheels turning in this direction. I write novels. I've got some novels out, the Fireteam Alpha series and the Blessed Warrior series. Put links below if you're interested. But I was doing research for my novels, and I came across an article about a woman called Karen Hudes. Now, she claims to be, and it seems to be actually was, a lawyer for the World Bank, who in 2007 left the World Bank and became a whistleblower, supposedly, about corruption in the World Bank and the central banking systems of the world. But she also blew the whistle, she says, on the fact that bald, big blue-eye aliens were in control of the World Bank and really all the banks. And I looked into her for a couple of hours, and there are some people that say she's just a disinformation agent. She is Jewish, but doesn't make a big deal about being Jewish in any of her postings or her YouTube channel. So there's an anti-Semitic. Somebody went on an anti-Semitic rant about how she's hiding the fact that she's a Jew and spreading disinformation that way. None of that matters. I might actually get into that in detail one of these days, but that's not what this is about. But what I started thinking is I think that there is corruption in international finance and in the World Bank is a given. She was blowing a whistle on some specific practice that, not being a financial genius or a mathematician, I really couldn't completely follow. But, I think if people really understood the extent of the control that institutions like the World Bank have, or the big international finance banks in general have over the economies and therefore the politics and therefore the fate of nations, I think the average person would be shocked. And that's what they didn't want to get out. Because if you pulled this threat the World Bank, other stuff would unravel. But how do you stop it? It's going to come out eventually. These things always do. You take this provable corruption, things that are on paper, and an honest accountant could go through and say, yeah, there it is, this is wrong, somebody needs to go to prison. You take that and you attach it to space aliens. Now, no matter what this person says about the corruption, space aliens. She's crazy. You can't go by what she says, folks. You just can't. So, and I want to make this clear. I am not accusing Karen Hudez of anything here. This is completely rhetorical. But this illustrates the way I'm thinking about why, in the recent years, that believing in a movement towards world government, whether people want it or not, and the paranormal aspect of things has been very melded in a lot of people's minds. And it's been melded by the media as a propaganda arm of governments, or we'll call them the elites, these cabal of people that have all the money and are moving people towards world government, the ruling class, as they see themselves. If you take all of this, stuff that's been out on the internet, that's out on the internet that many people would have never found before, just the existence of the CFR, the Council of Foreign Relations, the CFR, the Illuminati, whatever, how you ever define that, this ruling class of global elitists. If you want to take all of that, whose the organizations of most of these groups is easy to prove. The CFR makes no secret of their existence, neither does the Trilateral Commission or anything. The Illuminati, it depends. I only use that term because people are familiar with it through pop culture. But this is provable. And it is provable that many of these people that have all of this wealth and all of this influence support a global government. And there will be specific names in future videos. This is just, like I said, this is just kind of a primer of how I come at these subjects. All right, so you take all of this, that you can't go into books and at least see that it has some substance. You can just, Google it or go to a library. But then you take the supernatural aspect, UFOs, Bigfoot, and everything like that. And for those of you who don't ever even visit Crazy Town like I do, yeah, a lot of people link all of this stuff. Right? They can link Bigfoot to aliens, and aliens to the Rothschild family, and the Rothschild family to the Freemasons, and the Freemasons to the Boy Scouts. They can do it all. And now, but the thing of it is, and I think this was engineered through the elite's control of pop culture, Hollywood music, and whatnot, to take these fringe, really, really fringe subjects and glom them on to the political discourse. That way, if somebody does find out about, for instance, the UN Arms Treaty, which, if the United States ratifies, would subjugate our Constitution and the Second Amendment to a UN treaty. Bad news. Another subject for another video. Not a lot of people know about that unless they're really politically involved. But you see, the thing of it is, if you go out there and you make a big stink about it, and some people have, God bless them, I've signed more than a few internet petitions against it. But if you talk about that to a lot of people, well, the UN's not trying to take over. They're just trying to bring peace. You probably believe in UFOs too, don't you? You see what I mean there? You take a very real subject, a very serious subject, and you put it in this, and you've managed to attach this weight of fringe paranormal stuff to it. So no matter what you find out that the powers that be in Washington or UN or Brussels, Belgium, the capital of the EU, are actually doing, or the George Soroses, or the people behind the George Soroses that have even more money than he does, you find out what's going on, and you try to tell people, well, yeah, did you shake hands with Bigfoot this morning too? And I think that's on purpose. Now, as I said, this Karen Hudes case, and if you want to look that up, that's Hudes. This Karen Hudes case makes just really made that, because I started thinking, and as I said, I am not accusing you of anything. This is just a for instance. Okay, this corruption is coming out, and it could be that thread that pulls everything apart. Karen, honey, you've been working for us for a while now. We need you to take a hit for the team. You will be rewarded eventually. You're going to look a little nutty, but trust us. We need you to tell everybody about what we're doing here. Tell everybody about how we've been scamming. And then we want you to tell them that bald-headed aliens with big blue eyes are in charge at the World Bank. All of a sudden, even if everything she said was true, about the corruption, as soon as she uses the alien angle, nothing she said has any more credibility. And maybe she wasn't even in on it. Maybe it says, okay, she found out about this corruption. Now let's see if we can get her to believe this alien thing. Now I know that's Byzantine and it's Machiavellian, but that's the way my brain works. I make weird connections. Random firing is synapses that form patterns in the randomness. You see the mechanical gleam in my eye? But the point is, I do think no matter what happens with this lady, they have managed to take the word conspiracy and make it synonymous with insanity. Right? They have, in a way, made a propaganda weapon out of the word conspiracy. So when somebody finds a genuine conspiracy because they exist, well, if you believe that, are you going to a seance tonight? So even if the most credible person in the world comes out and talks about the Law of the Sea Treaty, for instance, or it talks about every time they send UN peacekeepers into a country, they wind up literally raping their way across the country. If they're from what they call developing nations. When they send UN peacekeepers into a place, it's a fact. They usually make things worse. If you talk about that, it's a conspiracy. Right? Were you abducted last night and probed by little ETs from Zeta Reticuli? And by merging all of this, merging these two together and throwing in a large dose of New Age ideas, they make it almost impossible to take all of this shenanigans that this global ruling class is doing. They make it impossible to out it without being tabbed a crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm going to end you with another example. There's supposedly a secret space program. Some people believe this. called Solar Warden. We've been helped to develop technology by friendly aliens to form a fleet of spaceships that protect our solar system from aliens we don't get along with. And this was, I think, it was a guy named Corey Goode was the first one who came out with this. He might not have been the first, but he was among the first. Now, again, I'm not going to say anything about Corey Goode's character or the veracity of his story. I will say it's fascinating. If it was a science fiction story and it was well written enough, he might get a Saturn Award, but he's presenting it as fact. And on top of this thing where he is supposedly been recruited as a child to be part of the secret space program and use his natural and empathic abilities to help communicate with all of these alien species that the governments of the world are secretly dealing with. He also throws in a healthy dose of New Age philosophy and talks about secret societies and how the secret societies have known about the aliens and how we were genetically engineered by the aliens. He takes all of this stuff about global governance and an elitist ruling class that rules behind the scenes and the shadow governments, throws it in with the secret space program and aliens and all of it and the New Age philosophy, and kills the credibility of somebody when they tell you that you should take a really good look at how the Jesuits have influenced history, or just how powerful the CFR is in terms of influencing ideas, or how the United States was effectively destroyed as a representative republic in 1913 and how we just have a veneer of a Republican form of government now. But now you take those issues, glom onto the secret space program where people are being abducted in order to become a member of and forced to become a member of the secret space program. And then when they're done after 20 years, not only are they taken back in time to the exact moment where they were abducted and their brains erased, but they're actually reduced in age. So nobody knows they were gone. And that's crazy. I am not omnipotent. It sounds nuts to me. I really can't see how that would happen. But there are people out there that believe a story. And even if it's not true, most people, even if it is true, most people would look at that and shake their head and laugh. And that's the thing, because the next guy that he talks about how the secret societies have known about the aliens and they were part of forming the Solar Warden program. And as soon as he talks about the secret societies and then mentions aliens in the secret space program, nobody's paying attention to the CFR or the alleged destructive influence of the Jesuits in history. Nobody's paying attention to that kind of stuff that might actually be able to be verified, because you've attached the aliens and solar and secret space program and the New Age stuff to it. You see what I mean? And I think that the media industrial complex and the pop culture industry have encouraged that connection for exactly that reason. The real provable stuff that is eroding the national sovereignty and that is eroding civil rights and constitutional rights is made off limits because you don't want to get nailed. You don't want to get tabbed as a UFO nut. Now again, I think there's something to the UFOs. In full disclosure, I actually reported a sighting. I was later in life when I reported it, but I had a sighting when I was 6 years old. Freaked me out. I might do a video about that one of these days. Right? So it's not saying that I do not believe in UFOs. I do have some real problems with belief when it comes to some of the wackier UFO uh, lore that's out there. But the point is here is that they take the really wacky stuff and they attach it to verifiable history, or to at least things that have some root in fact that might actually affect the fate of all the different nations and the people in them. Attach them to the paranormal, and anything you say about the secret societies and maybe the untaught history of the world loses all its credibility. It was engineered that way. And there's probably a lot of people out there that are on the lecture circuit and doing the UFO conventions and the conspiracy conventions that believe every word they're saying. That's true. But I really think a lot of them are being used as disinformation disseminators to bring all of these different lines together. So the ones that have real, truthful value and could be resisted if people were aware are drowned under stories like Corey Goode's, which are absolutely impossible to prove and sound absolutely positively insane. So that gives you a general idea of how I feel on the whole paranormal side of things and the conspiracy side of things. They may actually be connected, but I submit that if they are connected, the last things the powers that be, the great elitists, would want is for people to realize these connections. They wouldn't want you to connect those dots. So if they are connected, they're going to want you to think they're not. And by moving all of this and putting all of the paranormal stuff in with, well, let's call it the fringe political stuff. That's what I'll call, I think that's what I'm going to call the conspiracy theorists. The conspiracy theory, the fringe political or fringe history. I'll come up with a term. But you lump all of this together, and the weirdness of one dilutes the validity of the other. It dilutes the credibility of the other. And that's probably not as articulate. I really should just write this stuff. I'm much more articulate when I write than when I'm in front of the camera. But I spend all my time writing novels, so I really don't have time to write essays like this. And running off into the camera is therapeutic. It helps me organize my thoughts for when I do write. Anyway, that's where I'm coming down on this stuff, and that's where I'm going when I talk about UFOs and Bigfoot and stuff later on, which I will. And I'll be talking about the fringe politics stuff too. That's where I'm coming from, folks. I guess I am kind of a general agnostic on this stuff. I tend to believe that the way I look at it is a lot of this stuff is true, but a lot of that truth is built upon and exaggerated on to the point where it's nonsensical. It does become crazy, right? And we have to keep things from becoming crazy. We can't just accept these whistleblowers completely at their word, but at the same time, we can't dismiss them either. Okay, well, I will tell you once again and ask you to remember that words make history. This is the Fighting Nerd, Ray Chalinsky, and his co-host, Jolly Roger. We bid you good night from the Resistance Bunker. I hope I haven't rambled too much.